Hello and welcome to this live. I'm here today talking about nutrition. So, what are we going to talk about in terms of nutrition? There are some main frustrations, there are some mistakes that we're making, and then there are also some things that we want, in order to optimize our fertility. So, last week I started to speak about the ways that you can support your fertility naturally. This is the hot topic. That's what I always get asked. And my message to you guys is there isn't a one way to support your fertility naturally. It's really understanding where your pitfalls are and how can we support those pitfalls and why those things are there. So whether that's nutrition or digestion or sleep or stress or movement or hydration, whatever it is for you, it's figuring out what's the thing that is lagging behind the most and bringing that up. Because what I want you to understand is whether you're exercising too much or too little, whether you're eating the right things or eating the wrong things, they're all going to impact your own overall health and vitality. And the healthier and the more vital you can be, the greater your potential for fertility will be. A lot of the times my patients will come to me and say they have no idea what's going on. Or they'll say, I'm super healthy. And in the next sentence, will say, I'm taking these and these medications. So being super healthy and being on medications doesn't really go in the same sentence. And last time I drew a spectrum on health. So go back and watch that live. I'm actually going to put them all in the guides so you can watch them chronologically. But health is a spectrum. And so we might be really close to disease and not, still consider ourselves healthy, or we can be completely on the other side of the health. And these are the markers that I want to take you guys through so you understand, you understand basically what it is that I'm talking about. So let me share my screen here for a second, just so I can show you. Give me a minute. For some reason, I cannot see it. No. All right. So these are the 9 markers that I talked about last time, right? We're going to talk about, and we're going to cover all of these. And every week I'm going to give you 3 to vote on. And then once you vote on it, then I can go ahead and look through it. So basically, and today I figured out how to draw these 9 markers of health, right? Sleep, energy, nutrition. This is the one that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to choose a nice little color here, nutrition and diet. And the main frustrations that I see and hear from you guys around nutrition is that, number one, you have no idea where to start. You don't know where to start and you don't know if it makes a difference. Number 2, you've been trying something for a really long time and you haven't actually noticed a difference in what you're doing. And what we want is we want to have a diet and a plan that works for you, that you actually notice the difference in how you feel, and we can track that data. So whether it's your energy improves, your sleep improves, you lose some weight, or you gain weight, if that's the case, you feel more wholesome and complete versus anxious and nervous. Maybe your stress level, you actually feel that improves, your menstrual cycle improves. All those things are very much not only possible to improve, but they should improve over time as we change our nutrition. And the mistakes that I see my patients making is they're actually dieting. They're doing a diet, whether it's intermittent fasting or they're restricting their calories or they're over exercising before they begin to start trying, because you're so worried about gaining weight when you're pregnant. You want to make sure you're at your thinnest before you get pregnant, which actually just depletes your body. Dieting is super depleting on the system. So doing any kind of diet, juice cleanse, ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, restricting your calories is one of the worst things that you can do. And then the other mistake is you don't actually have a plan, so you don't have anything to stick to. And when you try to implement it, you try to implement too many things, you're not sure if it's working. And so then you give up. And like I said, what we want is we want this understanding of what foods you need to eat to feel supported and to feel good and to feel nourished and energetic and vibrant, and also be able to track that data so you can have the motivation to keep going. Because for some of us, the change in the diet will be really big. And for some of us, we're already doing a bunch of stuff. You just want to find out something that works. So today, what I want to do is introduce some of the basic things that we can do in order to support your body through, through this phase. So preparing for pregnancy or being pregnant and postpartum. And that's actually the really great thing. The things that I'm going to share with you today are the same things that you should be doing, not just to prepare for pregnancy, optimize your outcome, but it's the things that you're going to do throughout pregnancy and the things that you're going to do postpartum. And so the thing here with these 9 markers of health, it's like it's building a house, you guys. And there's a foundation. And I don't know if you'll be surprised by this, but the foundation is not actually nutrition. The foundation is sleep. So I will cover sleep in the next couple of weeks, but sleep, if you're not sleeping well, you basically can't make any good decisions on anything else. And it's going to be really hard to improve your nutrition and diet. Nutrition, the part of the house, is actually the walls and the skeleton of the house. So the walls, the roof, the building material, if you will. And yeah, that's pretty important. So yeah, you want to have a good foundation, but you also need to have good skeleton, good building materials. If any of you have ever built a house, you know that building a house out of wood and brick is way better than building a house out of Cheetos. That's not a very strong or sturdy house, and that's obviously going to transfer into the health of the future child. So the 3 main things that I need you to focus on when it comes to nutrition, and I'm just going to change the color here, is we need to make sure we're eating high quality proteins. We need to make sure we're eating fats, and of course, they're high quality proteins, and we're eating the rainbow. But if you hit on these 3 things, these are the 3 things that I need you to include in your diet. So high quality protein, you're eating grass-fed beef, you're eating organic, pasture-raised chicken, eggs. You can have some lentils in there, like vegetarian sources, and vegetarian sources of protein as well. And then if you're eating high quality fats, and fats is really, really important. So the fats, again, you're looking at oils, you're looking at avocado, olive oil, pumpkin seed oil, sunflower seeds, nuts and seeds in general, chia seeds, flax seeds. But then the fats, if you're eating high quality protein, the fats are also going to be included in that. For example, grass-fed beef can be very fatty, and that fat is actually really, really important for us and has a lot of nutrients in it. The problem with ketogenic diet, I've had a couple patients recently who've been trying to do ketogenic and intermittent fasting diet before getting pregnant, and why it's a mistake is you're cutting out a really big portion of the food, which is eating the rainbow. And you need to eat carbs. You need to eat carbs for for hormone health, energy, vitality, digestive health, supporting the liver, supporting the spleen, the digestive tract. Even when it comes to TC, I'm bringing a lot of warmth into the gut. So warmth transfers into warmth in the uterus, where the reproductive system, where you're going to grow your baby. So you want to create a nice, cozy environment for them. But the rainbow, right? This is, and I'm going to talk about the 3 things that you should avoid, but the rainbow is really where you're going to get your high level nutrients. So you need to have leafy green vegetables. You need to have, whether it's peppers and different kinds of fruits, the berries, anything with deep colors is going to be, it's full of phytonutrients. It's full of different micronutrients, different macronutrients that are going to help nourish your system and overfill the nutrient bank, if you will, so then you can grow a human. The whole point of nourishing yourself is, and why I don't want you guys to underestimate that, is you're growing a human from scratch. Okay, when you're growing a human from scratch, it is the most difficult thing that the female body will ever do. And so you want to come to a place where you feel like you have so much energy and so much vitality and so much desire, and not just desire, because sometimes all we have is desire, but our bodies is actually really tired and depleted. We need to make sure that the body and the mental emotional state line up, and sometimes that's the hard thing, is we have to wait for the body to catch up, to restore energy, to heal. But I want you to come to a place where you feel so nourished, so vibrant, and so energetic that you have nowhere else for that energy to go but out. And the out is really growing a human. And I know that that might be a really difficult task to seem like a really difficult task to do right now, especially with all the high levels of stress that we're experiencing in the world. But if it's one of those things where I say, like, it just becomes a non-negotiable. If you want to grow a healthy baby and you want to feel good throughout it, we need to get you to a place where you can learn how to bring some more energy in. Because if you're coming from a state of depletion, of exhaustion, you're going to have such a much harder time getting pregnant, but also throughout the pregnancy and postpartum. And I find that if it doesn't get you through, I find if women are okay to get pregnant and then through pregnancy they manage, then usually it's postpartum period that catches up with them. So we want to make sure that we're preventing anything down the road. So let's talk about some of the things that you should avoid, because again, the should avoid is actually, I don't want to say it's more important, but a lot of the times it's more important than the things that we need to include. So in the nutrition to include, remember, it's fats, proteins, and eating the rainbow. And yes, that includes sweet potato squashes and that kind of stuff. But the things that we really want to make sure that we are avoiding, because they're quite detrimental to our health, is processed food. Okay, I'm talking anything processed. So anything that has more than 4 ingredients. If your food has more than 4 ingredients regularly, and I would even check things like, you're like, yeah, but I eat rice in this. And it's like, what kind of rice? Because even I can't remember, there was like an Uncle Ben's and it had like 5 or 6 different ingredients. Or peanut butter. Like if you eat Kraft peanut butter, there's like 5 or 6 different ingredients versus natural peanut butter. So that's more considered processed food. So I need you to really think about, is my food processed or is my food real? Right? And is it like crackers are processed food? So if you eat a bunch of crackers or rice cakes, those have very little nutrition. So get away from processed food, get away from sugar. That's obvious. And not fruit sugars. Fruit sugars are fine, but sugar that's processed again. And then you want to get away from raw foods / dairy. Now, I'm not even going to include like alcohol and drugs in here, because to me, I apologize for my writing up top here, but alcohol and drugs to me is something that's like, I want to say a non-negotiable. You want to be with alcohol, depending on where you are and how much you're struggling, you could maybe get away with having a glass of wine or, 1 serving of alcohol here and there. But if you're truly trying and you're struggling with infertility, alcohol is something that I get people to cut off, and as well as drugs. So whether it's, recreational, marijuana is a big thing right now. We want to be cognizant of the things that we're putting in our system. And a lot of the times we use those things because we're anxious and we're looking to de-stress. And so we're going to talk about that in this section here. of what are some of the things that are actually causing your system more stress, even though it's giving you the perception of being more relaxed, because that's important. So if we're getting rid of processed, we're getting rid of sugar, too much processed sugar. And the one that you're probably wondering is raw foods and dairy. And the reason that I put those two together is because both of those things are very cooling for the system. So when you eat them in traditional Chinese medicine, when you think about when you crave raw foods, you crave raw like salads and celery and cucumber and all those things when it's hot outside. So it's hot outside, you're trying to cool the system. The same with things like smoothies, right? They're hot, it's hot outside, you crave more smoothies in the summertime than you do in the wintertime. And there's a reason for that, because your system is hot. And when you eat those foods, it's going to cool you down. It takes more energy for you to break down that food. And it actually has a cooling effect, like it cools your temperature down. The problem with that, and dairy just by nature has the same effect. Now, it's not that you can't have dairy at all. It depends on how well you manage dairy, but you just shouldn't have dairy all the time. And I typically recommend to have it with something that's more warming. So if I'm having dairy, I'll have a warm cup of tea with it, like a ginger and lemon tea, because that's warming and it kind of balances out the coolness of the dairy, of the yogurt. Now, the reason that that's important is the digestive system is very closely related to your reproductive system. If there's a lot of coolness and coldness in your digestive tract, then you're going to have a lot of coolness and cold in your reproductive tract. And basically it just makes an environment that's not very soothing or welcoming for the new fetus to grow and to implant. If you've watched my video on conception and like 4 things you need for a successful conception, then you know that one of the things that you need is the baby room needs to be ready. And what's the baby room? Well, the baby room is where your baby is going to grow, and that's your womb, that's your uterus. And so we want to create a very welcoming, warming, nurturing environment. And the way that we do that is optimize your digestion, because like I said, those two systems are very closely related. So we want to make sure. And honestly, when people now, when they say, I don't have gut issues, you don't have to have gut issues to not have a good functioning gut, because our society is just bombarding us with glyphosate, which is a herbicide that's sprayed on every single, like on all of our food now. And the quality of the food is way down. We're not eating enough probiotics and prebiotics. We're consuming antibiotics on a regular basis. You have a lot of stress. All those things impact the gut. So even though you might not have distress in your gut, most people need some sort of support and some sort of treatment and some sort of intentional eating to support their digestive tract, so the reproductive system can also do the same thing. Okay, I know that's a mouthful. So to summarize, basically, you want to eat high quality fats, you want to eat high quality proteins, and eat the rainbow. And really what that means is you want to eat whole foods. You just want to eat a whole food diet that's probably a little bit higher in fat than you're used to. And if you're in the health and fitness industry and you eat a lot of chicken and you don't eat a lot of beef, you need to switch over and get some more fattier meats. Then you need to get away. Those are the 3 things that you need to consume. The 3 things that you need to get away from is the highly processed food, high sugar, and usually those are also processed food, but high sugar content foods, because it's dysregulating your blood sugar and causing, your blood sugar, cortisol level spikes, all that kind of stuff. And then you want to get away from eating too many raw things. So whether it's raw foods like raw salads and dairy, and don't get me wrong, it's not that you can't have a salad here and there, but again, I typically find when women will come to me, it's like they'll have a salad every single day and then just get used to eating that same thing. So we want to create some more variety and stay away from the really raw foods if we're looking to get pregnant soon, or if we're during pregnancy or postpartum, because we're trying to bring a lot of warmth and a lot of life into the reproductive system and into our gut. I want to know if you have any questions. Go ahead and post them below. I'm happy to answer them. If you don't have this handout that I just shared with you and you would like to get a copy, let's just comment the word markers of health, and I will make sure to send you a DM and send you a copy of that. Okay, I hope you guys found it helpful. I look forward to adding more value. We're gonna cover next week. We're either gonna cover stress or exercise for fertility. I'm gonna again put out the poll, and I want you guys to vote. And we're gonna cover every single one of these little squares. Again, if you have any questions, post them below. I'm happy to answer, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.